I want to manifest great luck, but what am I going to do to get that promotion or that win? If I just sit there and say I want $1 million and I don't do anything to set that effort in motion, it's not going to happen. As human beings, we don't like change. Change is a bit scary. I don't know how this is going to work out. We try to find control or justify reasons to make it no before we even try it, and therefore we talk ourselves out of things. And for the first time, it may be a little scary. You may be thinking to yourself, do I really belong in this boardroom? Are people really going to take me seriously? Are people really going to listen to what I have to say? I have the training experience, so yeah.
Welcome back to Hindsight the Podcast. I'm Lee Jones, your host. And what if the loudest critic in your head is just a pattern you can reprogram? Today, we're breaking down psychological strategies to silence self-doubt with Dr. Albert Bramante, a veteran talent agent, 20 plus years, Ph.D. in psychology and certified hypnotist. Make sure I say the word right. Good morning, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thanks for joining me. Where are you calling in from, by the way?
New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay, is that your home of record or just a place you decide to settle down at?
No, it's my home of record.
Okay. All right. I'm from the East Coast myself. I'm over here in California now, trying to figure out when I'm going to bring myself back to the East Coast. But
where are you from on the East Coast? Like, where are you from?
I'm from Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay.
Yeah, not going back to Baltimore, Maryland. No negative there, but yeah, but I will be coming back to the East Coast. So no, a lot of my family live in Maryland, so it's great state, great place to live, grow up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about self-doubt. You have been in amazing positions where you can help people to overcome self-doubt. You've been able to recognize it. Your education has given you the tools to do this magic that you do. And I just want to talk a little bit about that. And this is Hindsight the Podcast. So if you wouldn't mind, just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to become who you are today.
Sure. Well, thank you. So I originally was very interested in the mind and the brain, and being a high school student that really was a little bit, I would say, a little more advanced, cognitively. I being the only child. Well, I'm the youngest, but technically the only child because most of my half siblings were 8, 9, 10, years older than I was. So it was a little difficult growing up. I didn't really have that many other peers to hang with. So when I was in high school, I was reading books like How to Win Friends and Influence People, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and even books on psychotherapy. So I just became very interested in the brain and behavior. And I was always just a curious person, so I enjoyed reading anything about human beings. And so by the time I was beginning my junior year in high school, I declared that psychology was going to be my major. I declared that I was going to be, really pursuing psychology. That was like my goal, my plan, and all of that. So one of the things that I really wanted to do was to major in psychology and become a clinical psychologist, as well as a college professor. So I fulfilled most of that. I mean, I'm a college professor now. I've been doing that for 22 years now. But the one thing that kind of changed me was, after I, did my master's degree, I became more interested, and I was doing work with 9/11 relief. I mean, I'm in New York, near New York. So I, through some contacts that I had made, previously during grad school, I joined a group of people. We're doing some volunteer work on the ground, providing relief and crisis intervention for 9/11 survivors, families, and whatnot. And so I started working a lot with actors. And to backtrack a little bit, I was in a drama club in high school, and I took some acting classes in college as electives, 3 electives. And it was interesting to me. I really didn't think anything of it. It was just fun. I enjoyed it. It was more about the camaraderie. Like I really felt seen and heard and validated with theater people. So
Mhm.
that's what got me interested in, actors. And so a couple of people said, "Oh, you have a great taste for acting. Why don't you try, you know, I'd like to go audition for a film." And I got a couple audition requests just without even, pursuing acting.
Mhm.
And I said, "Well, let me give this a shot." And so for about 2 years, I did, the actor gig, but I realized that it wasn't really for me, but I enjoyed being around the company, the
Mhm.
energy. I really felt seen with being around actors. So that's what led me down the path of becoming, an agent, a talent agent, because I really liked working with actors. I liked mentoring actors. And over the time I've worked with thousands of actors over the past, 20 some odd years of doing this.
Mhm.
So I really enjoy, really doing this. So um and so that's where I'm at now.
Okay.
And what led me to the performance psychologist side, or like studying imposter syndrome and getting into your own head, was the one thing I noticed when I first started, and even to this day, a lot of actors were self-sabotaging. I couldn't necessarily explain it as to why this was happening or what was really going on, but it was like really what was, what the fundamental basis of self-sabotage is. You're getting in your own way. You're getting in, you're blocking yourself, and it's really
Mhm.
self-imposed.
Yeah.
And so that's what led me to do my doctoral dissertation on self-defeating behavior in performing artists, because it was something I was seeing almost on a widespread scale, and I really couldn't figure out what was going on
Yeah.
with me.
Yeah.
And so that, kind of led me down this rabbit hole, you could say, of like, self-sabotage, self-doubt, fear of success, and how personality factors all factor in. And so when I did my doctoral dissertation, got that published, and several years later, I wanted to turn it into a book.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Hey, so you like being in the camaraderie of actors, you saw the psychology. Like how does self-doubt typically show up in high stake moments, like in the body, the thoughts, behavior? How does it really show up?
well, how does it show up? Well, a couple of things. In the body, there's the fear response, and a lot of times, if we look at the emotion of fear, it's there to protect us.
Mhm.
It's there to keep us safe. And for thousands of years, that's what it's did. If you go back to human beings being in hunter-gatherer days and caveman days, we had a lot of threats. We had climate threats. We had, predators, animal predators, and we also had other tribes. So as well as just disease in general. So we
Mhm.
had so many different external threats to our survival, and the human brain is really designed to do one thing: keep us alive. And obviously reproduce, but keep us alive. That was the biggest thing, and it did a great job of doing that. Obviously,
Mm.
that's why we're here
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
And one of the things it's great at is threat detection.
Mm.
And now back during those times, it did a great job of doing that. Today, anytime that something seems unfamiliar, that alert system goes on in our brain. It's like that alarm, and that's what fear is. So
Mhm.
anytime we do something different, anytime we do something that's unfamiliar territory,
Yeah.
it becomes uncomfortable. It activates the fear response in us. Now, for some people, that over is an overdrive. And so part of it is like we have to start training ourselves, training our brain to say, okay, thank you for protecting me. I'm okay. This is not gonna be, this is unfamiliar, but it's not dangerous. And therefore we can then move on. So that's what's kind of going on in our body, is that fear response, and that is very real. And again, it has its purpose, and it still does.
Mm-hmm.
But for some people, it can be overdrive, and for some people, it can just be too much. And
Yeah.
so what we need to, what we should be doing is really transcending that. And so that's where it shows up. Now, how it can manifest again in our brain and our behavior, preventing us from doing things. We wake up, we consciously may feel, "Oh, I'm too tired to do this, or this doesn't seem like a good idea. I'm going to sit this one out." And
Yeah.
again, it's going to feel comfortable to us to do that. And so it's very easy for us to talk ourselves out of doing something that might be really in the long term beneficial for us and really like taking us to the next level because it's unfamiliar, it's unknown, and
Yeah.
it's really not unterrain territory. So there's a lot of issues that are going on there. That's what's going on the manifestation side. So I kind of come up with, well, and also the research that, self-sabotage is also a protective mechanism for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and the thing about self-sabotage is we don't realize we're doing it. It's not like we're consciously walking around saying, "Hey, everyone, I'm self-sabotaging today." It
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
happen that way. So, essentially, what happens there is we have to figure out, how we're going to, focus on that and how we're going to handle that.
I tell you what, doctor, I remember I'm laughing because I'm thinking about when I was in the military, and this is probably an actual survival mechanism kicked in, right? So I'm not happy, or I'm not a skilled swimmer. And I remember a day we had to do drown proofing. And drown proofing requires you to jump into a pool and pretty much float with your uniforms and stuff like that. And my mind went active. It went active. And because I also, when I used to walk around, I used to take photos of different events and stuff like that we were doing. I was able to actually not interrupt my negative self talk, but actually convince myself to pick up a camera and act as if, right? Just do something totally else to save my one life, which I believe, but there were people in the pool that could pull you out at any time, right? But also to save my ego, because I'm gonna get out there and look a fool, and there's a whole lot of people around there. So my mind was very, very active in protecting me from not necessarily imminent danger, but definitely imminent ridicule and laughter. So for you, hearing something like this, kind of extreme, what's your go-to like 1, 2, 3 reset to interrupt negative self-talk in, let's say, under 60 seconds? Do you have that?
Sure. Well, the main thing is just talking yourself out of it and knowing that a thought is a thought, and
Mm,
doesn't have to stay there. So just deep breathing is probably the most powerful way to do
mm,
that. Take some
yeah,
deep breaths in, slow down, because when we're in fearful mode, we're shallow breathing,
yeah,
and that could really work against us. So take deep breaths in. That would probably be the quickest act, I would say.
yeah. I would have had to take deep breaths when I jumped in that water too, so maybe that would have worked in both situations. Hey, but a fear of failure versus a fear of success, how do you help someone identify which one is running the show for them?
I to realistically, they're very much related, and I would
Hmm.
say sometimes they're both happening simultaneously. So
Yeah.
it's really fear of failure is all about looking bad or being disappointed, and fear of success is all about the fear of change and
Mm,
what comes after the success, more responsibility, more in the spotlight, and really change in identity. And that's probably fundamentally all of it because the identity goes with the fear of failure, well, then I'm a failure. But fear of success, the identity is I have to just switch and change. And
mm,
as human beings, part of that brain comfort, brain activation I was talking about earlier, comfort is another thing that we really are addicted to. And staying comfortable. Uncomfortability, again, is something we don't like to experience.
Mm-mm.
So anything that can possibly do is to be, anything that can possibly bring us comfort, we're going to keep doing.
Yeah.
And until we really actively discipline ourselves to move out of that. So I think the first step is to realize that fear may be taking over because our brains can be amazingly deceptive sometimes.
Mm.
And what might look like, oh, this is not a really good opportunity for me, or this may be a waste of my time, or this is boring, might be really underneath that is a mask for fear. That's what's really going on there.
Yeah.
So the first thing is to understand that can happen, and then we can start peeling back the layers of that. Say, okay, what's fundamentally happening here? Well, it's fear,
Mm.
because fear is fear. So the one thing we need to do is strip that and say, okay, first of all, this is a possibility. And that's the first step to unmasking that, is that knowing that this is a possibility. Then the
Yeah.
next step is to work through that and talk ourselves through it. Deep breathe,
Mhm.
take little steps,
Mhm.
but do take steps forward, but you don't have to make big leaps right away, but just start taking some small steps forward. Um, and being kind to yourself is a big thing too, and be generous and encouraging yourself. I'm doing this. This is not, and it's okay. It's not comfortable, and that's okay. I
Yeah.
may not be comfortable, and I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
I may not like this temporarily, but I'm going to be okay. I may be uncertain, but I'm okay. So that is okay. It's like being uncertain, and
Mhm.
that's okay. So that is the first thing to kind of just talk yourself out of this. Look, this is scary, but I'm going to be all right. I'm going to be
Yeah.
okay at the end of the day, and yeah, I'm certainly alive, so let's keep going.
Yeah.
And the one thing that when I talk about fear of failure, the one thing is to kind of reframe failure as feedback. So there's no such thing as failure, only feedback, and that's a good tenet to live by, or a good motto to live by, because it's like, okay, well, even if it didn't go as planned, and I did this idea and it didn't go as planned, I learned something, and
Yep.
I learned what not to do. Um, the inventor of the light bulb had 1,000 prototypes before
Mhm.
the actual one worked. And instead of saying like, "Well, I failed 1,000 times," he looked at it as like it was 1,000 learning opportunities. So I
Mhm.
think if we sit and have that mentality of like, "Look, well, okay, it didn't work, it didn't go as planned, but now I know what I got some amazing knowledge and feedback from this experience. So
Yeah.
now I can do this to move forward and keep going." And I use the analogy of the babies learning to walk. If anybody who's, been around babies knows that, one of the typical things that toddlers have to do between starting at 9, 8, 9, 10 months is to start moving
Right.
and being on their own and moving on their own without assistance. And that's a lengthy task, because first you have to stand on your 2 feet, you have to balance, and then take steps. Now, walking is a thing that everyone takes for granted, because we do this unconsciously now. It's like what we call unconscious competence.
Mhm.
So we can walk without any assistance. And so, but if when you watch a toddler learning to walk, it's a lot of work. It's a
Yeah.
lot of effort, and it's a lot of failure where they keep falling down hundreds of times. Now, you can give up, like, but we never see any toddlers say, "I give up walking."
Right. Right.
And you never see adults in the toddlers like saying, "Walking's really not for you."
Mhm.
We just keep going, and eventually you learn to walk. And so I think if we can maintain that,
Yeah.
I mean, look at how many times the infant and toddlers fail, but yet eventually they take
Figure
their
it out.
first couple of steps and figure it out, and their
Yeah.
brain makes those connections, with the motor neurons in our body, to be able to walk without assistance,
Mhm.
and eventually, become competent walkers. So if infants and toddlers can do that, why do we give up so easily when,
Mm.
things may not go the direction we wanted to? Missions may not go as planned, but
Yeah.
instead of saying, okay, throwing in the towel, which we do a lot,
Yeah.
instead of pivoting, say, okay, well, maybe this method didn't work. okay, let me try that a different method. And so that's what I call like kind of like what we call failing forward.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so that's one way to address. That's probably the biggest way or most effective way to address fear of failure.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
fear of success is really about looking at what would be the outcome of this. Well, it could be a change of identity, a change of relationships, and also a change in your identity. So maybe if there's self-worth issues, self-esteem, self-worth, self-concept, maybe coming
mhm.
from childhood, those need to be addressed. So,
Yeah,
because if you don't feel adequate or you don't feel
yeah,
worthy, that
yeah,
to get to that next level,
I get
success
that.
is going to be a bit of an obstacle.
Yeah. Yeah, that's thank you. That's some things to consider, and I really appreciate the baby analogy, right? Because that is in its simplest like, that is a monumental task that a baby has to figure out, and there like you said, there are a lot of pieces to that puzzle that a baby has to figure out. So why do we grow up and we become less, not necessarily daring, but we just give up really quickly in certain situations, so yeah, that's a great analogy, and I'll remember that when I'm going through something and I'm starting to have that self-doubt talk
Hmm.
or whatever. And, one other thing I want to reiterate what you talked about, I said I was in the army, which I was. I was a supply guy. I wasn't one of those hoo guys, but I spent the majority of my time in combat units, so light infantry units, things like that. And one of their mantras was get comfortable being uncomfortable, right?
Hmm.
So in the military, there's a lot of mental lessons that you learn, right? Because for us, a lot of things just aren't going to go right. They're
Right.
not going to go. No, they'll go right, but they're not going to go well. Like you got to go through a lot of mess to get to where you're trying to get to, right?
Yeah.
So having a strong mind and just understanding, just learn to be comfortable being
With
uncomfortable. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and because especially when heaven forbid, we don't never want to be there, but if you're being shot at from different angles,
Yeah.
I think most soldiers at that point would be okay with just being yelled at and screamed at rather than having to worry about your life every second. So,
Right.
but that requires physical and mental discipline, and that's where the army does great
Yeah.
in by building that character. So, and that's the one way to look at it. Like, it's not there to break us down, it's there to build us up. That discipline, and yes, it's not going to be pleasant in the moment. I mean, nobody
Hmm.
really, says I enjoy basic boot camp or advanced boot camp for
I
fun.
didn't.
Yeah, um, it's about building character. It's
Yeah.
about saying, okay, this is going to make me a better fighter. This is going to make me a better character, virtues even at the end of the day and discipline. So it's about looking at that perspective and being uncomfortable. Yeah, you're going to be uncomfortable, but think about again if you're ever put to the test,
Hmm.
how that's going to be where you're constantly 24 hours a day being threats constantly to your life and
Yeah.
the life of your fellow
Yeah.
man and woman
Absolutely.
that's standing next to you. So there's that perspective too. So it's being okay with being uncomfortable, and that's the whole thing. And I think that's the knowledge too, because yes, we're doing something we love, but it's gonna be uncomfortable too because there's change that we have to make. And
Yeah.
as human beings, we don't like change.
Yeah.
Change is a bit scary because
Hmm.
it's the unknown. It's okay. I don't know how this is gonna work out. I don't know, and we try to find control or justify reasons to make it known, before we even try it, and therefore we talk ourselves out of things. So it's
Just
very
that
easy to talk
self-talk.
yourself
Yeah.
out of doing something, and that you should be doing, but it's easy to talk yourself out of it.
Hmm.
Whether
Hmm.
it's working on that project, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's going for a walk. If it's something a little uncomfortable, our brain does an amazing job at talking ourselves out of it. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm too tired today. Yeah, this may not be worth it. I'm just going to sit this one out. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and reality, and maybe feel short term comfortable, but long term, we're gonna regret it.
Yeah. Hey, so this I want to ask you a question. I want you to think about it from a perspective of you helping
Mhm,
actors out, right? But it's
mhm.
something that can, boardrooms and, sports team, whatever, right? But how have you and how do you help actors refrain I don't belong here into I'm built for this?
Well, the first thing you have to reflect on is your training. You
Mhm.
to
Yep.
most professional actors, just like athletes or CEOs, did a lot of training. Did a lot of experience. So you have the training, you have the experience, and now you just have to really believe that you belong here. And for the first time, it may be a little scary. You may be thinking to yourself, do I really belong in this boardroom? Are people really going to take me seriously? Are people really going to listen to what I
Mm,
have to say? And it's like, well, I have the training and experience, so yeah, I
yeah.
do have perspective. I do have something I can offer here. But the main thing is just to go through that and say, okay, you know what? It's normal to feel this way.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of even think with imposter syndrome, it's not unique. It's not something that's a flaw. We all experience it from time to time, and that's okay. And so you say, okay, I'm not perfect, but I do have the experience, I do have this knowledge, and I do have a perspective I can share and I can help other people. So when I kind of say this, whether you're in that boardroom or doing any type of important task, you belong here. You belong to help other people. You belong to share your knowledge and your experience in the world. We need that. So why are you going to deprive the world of something that you have?
Mm.
And you have
Mm.
that, and then even if it's like, "Well, I don't have this," because very often it's like we start thinking about what we don't have or we're
Yeah.
lacking,
Yeah.
and, there's no such thing as being perfect, and, that's where I kinda come with, like, what comes with procrastination and perfectionism. It's like, "Oh,
Mhm.
it has to be perfect," and it doesn't, and I've always come to the conclusion that not being when you tell yourself you're not ready, you're lying to yourself because not ready is a lie,
Mm.
and that's where you have to come with the knowledge of saying, "Okay, I am ready." Now,
Yeah.
can I still learn? Yes, we're always learning. We're always
Mhm.
evolving, we're always improving. Because people say, "Well, I'm not ready. Haven't learned this skill yet, or I haven't learned that skill yet." Okay, you know, so go for extra training, but still be in that boardroom. And most people are going to respect leaders that are human.
Mhm.
Okay, I don't know everything, but I can learn with you, and I'll find out with you, rather than always expecting to be perfect. Because we're not omniscient. We're not, this, all knowing or all, a transcendent or omnipotent God. We're human beings. We're leaders, and leaders also know how to follow, and leaders also know how to, say, I need more information, or I need to go do this more. So
Yeah.
that's the one thing I would tell. Like, look, okay, you did this training, you have this experience, you deserve to be here, and you also are going to be evolving and doing more research and learning new skills. So, yes, you have every you know um sense to be here.
Yeah. So you talk about training, you talk about experience, you talk about all of these well things that you have about you that prepare you to be in the room, but you still have some self doubt. So
Hmm.
from your perspective, like what micro habits, like 10 minutes a day, something like that, can compound into bulletproof confidence over a month?
Well, the one thing compounding is doing something different every day.
Hmm.
Another thing to do is what's the network that you keep, so the company you keep, and it's really the ideal situation for any actor, again, CEO,
Hmm.
performer, any high performer, to be also in a network with other high professional people too that will keep you accountable and build you up. So when you're around people that are negative, on the other hand, it's going to be very hard to break free or to evolve from that.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's what I would do every day is really cultivate the network that you're in.
Okay. I like that. I like that. All right. So, what's your best learn and let go routine to avoid rumination and just continue, like I said, to rebuild that momentum?
Do something different, don't stagnate.
That,
The one that the worst thing I think anyone can do when they're ruminating is be bored. And because then all of a sudden these thoughts are going to then start replaying a kind of a never-ending loop in your brain about I'm not perfect, I can't do this, I'm this and that. So the main thing is to do something different. So even if that, like if you're trying hard, you can't get an idea for a project, step away and walk away from that.
mm,
Take a walk sometimes, do something different. So that's what I would say is really keep being in action.
yeah. Yeah. You ever play those games on your phone? And it's supposed to be mind games to help you, keep your mind stimulated. And it's like a word find game. And I
Hmm.
play these things. I don't know what level. I'm on some crazy level right now, but I'll get to one and I'm like, what is the word? I can't see it. I can't find it. I'm just looking at it. And then I'll just say, you know what? Let me just close it out. I'll walk away, come back a day later. Boom, it's right there, apparent and present.
Yeah.
Right.
And you and sometimes it's like, "Why didn't I think that was so obvious?" But yet, at
yeah.
the same time, we can't force anything, and that's why, like, when people say, "I need to be creative," that's great. But if you're gonna sit there and like, you can't force being creative. You can't force sometimes solutions to come. They just have to come naturally. And I've heard of people that were like, they have a problem that they needed to solve. They were sitting at their desk, they couldn't figure it out, but they went and took a walk, or they went to the gym, or they went just about the day, and all of a sudden, boom, poof, an answer came in their brain,
Yeah.
and then went, and it was it was the one that they were looking for. So sometimes, again, it's when you're not looking for something, when you're not pursuing things exactly directly is when inspiration will come. So that's where
Yeah.
it's important to just sometimes let go and just do something different. And the one thing you don't want to do is force it because you'll find it hard to do that. The
Yeah.
solutions that will come, and especially when it comes to like again the thoughts of that critical self thought or that voice in your head that
Mhm.
telling you, this is not right or you're not worthy. Again, the important thing is to sometimes walk away and do something different.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, and then understanding when you go away, I love the part where you say keep active, right? Because when you walk away, you're being stimulated by other things, right? And those things are going to be the things that kind of stir up that imagination or that creativity, or it's going to connect some dots, for you that you're just in that one space at your desk looking at a computer screen. You're just not connecting those dots, so you need that stimulation outside. So yeah, keep moving. Don't get bogged down on certain things. It's going to come to you eventually. I love that bit of advice. So now, doctor, you are, I don't know, do we want to make you a screenwriter, a football coach? But I want you to build an anti-doubt playbook. What pages must it include? Like triggers, counter scripts, anchors, reps? Like what pages need to be in this
Well,
anti-doubt
all
playbook?
the things, triggers definitely have to be in there. What triggers this? And the main thing is, I would say the first page would be the introduction that this exists. Okay, what is self doubt? What is
Mm-hmm.
this fear? And how does it look? And so once you have that knowledge, it's like, okay, this is a trigger. Then there would be I have a lot of empty pages in there for writing down, like notes. Okay, what are these triggers that are happening? When you start to have this thought coming into your head, what's the first thing you're doing before that? What's the first event that happens before that? You know, and especially when it comes to something unknown.
Mm-hmm.
When we're about to do something that's a bit new for the first time, it's going to be a
Yeah.
learning curve.
Yeah.
So, okay, that would be a trigger. For some people I know, um, pure technology. A lot of people don't like technology. A lot of people get very when they first try a new tool or a new program. It's like, whoa, I can't do this. And all of a sudden, I can't do this becomes everything that we couldn't do in earlier times. So it's flooding back in our brain. That's a trigger. Something new,
Mm-hmm.
something unknown. And then the next page is being like, okay, talk yourself through that. Take a
Mm-hmm.
deep breath in, and you're gonna learn. and go back to that infant walking again and knowledge. Okay, eventually the infant learned to walk. Eventually, if we keep practicing, we're going to learn this tool. We're going to
Yeah.
learn this process. We're gonna do this. But we have to keep going. And yes, there's going to be roadblocks. So I would say, okay, then keep moving. Keep talking yourself through this. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try this. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try that. And so that would be the main thing to do is take these little steps. Okay, if this, then that, and if not this, then that. So the important thing to do is to, in that playbook is again writing down. Okay, this attempt didn't work. Let's try this one.
Yeah.
Because very
Yeah.
often, with that book, it's like, well, this attempt didn't work. Okay, I'm gonna close the book. That's it. I can't do
I-
this.
Yeah.
And then, of course, every idea that you failed in the beginning is going to start flooding in your brain again. I can't do this, and I'm done. So I think the important thing to do is again talking yourself through it. Is really the biggest thing there.
Right.
And then I would say look back at the things you've done. So a really good hack to do is when you have these moments, reflect back to a time where you were successful,
Mm.
where the most happiest time. It could be your graduation from, military school, or when you had those stripes put on you, and how honor that felt. They'll take that feeling that you
Mm.
had, not necessarily the event, but what feeling was associated. Well, I feel proud. Okay, take that proud feeling. Notice where it is in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Notice it and keep building on it. And use your five senses: hearing, seeing, feeling, smelling, tasting. What did it all feel? Take what was it like? Now
Yeah.
build it, build it, build it. Now take that feeling and now let's apply it to what you're doing now.
Mm. Yeah.
And now you have a new perspective on it
Yep.
because mindset is really everything. And that's one way to kind of, using a past experience to enhance their mindset now. So that would be another step in my playbook. Okay, go back to a feeling, go back to an event where you were the most successful. Build it,
Yeah.
let it build up, let that feeling build up. What did it feel like? Well, I felt powerful. Okay, tell me what powerful felt like in your body. Where do you notice in your body? Feel it in your body, and then come back at it. One of the things like Tony Robbins used to in the seminars, the one thing he used to recommend is like doing power poses. Sometimes even
Mm.
beforehand you do something
Yeah.
because what you're doing when you're in that power pose, you're enhancing your testosterone, you're improving your physiology, and which is your state,
Yeah.
your emotional and physical state. Now go doing what you're about to go do, and it's a
Mm.
different feeling now. So that would be another thing in the playbook too. Is like, okay, developing power pose, improving your physiology, and again, and along with that, recalling the time we were powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that would be probably the next, things I would really say, because then you can
Yeah.
conquer anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I know one of the things as a leader in the military, one of the challenges they said the greatest leadership challenge is to convince people to do things against their natural instinct. And that's why you see the commercials where everybody's running away from a fire or something's going on in the military is running towards it, right? Because one, you talked about this earlier, you're relying on your training. Two, you have a sense of purpose and meaning, right? But
Hmm.
three, you understand that you've done this before and you've done it in your training and you're built for this, using some of the words that we've talked about already. And
Yeah.
so I love the fact where it's like, you know, figure out or think back in hindsight, look back at some of those successes that you've had and gather and harness and
Hmm.
nurture that feeling and bring it forward with you, right? And take it because you're able to do these things. Now I use that extreme scenario, running into battle, but sometimes that's what's going on in your mind, whether you're running into gunfire or you're going into a boardroom to do a presentation, right? There's a battle that's going on in your mind. on what it is, how capable am I going to be able to do this, right? And if you've probably done presentations before, what makes this any different? Because it's
Exactly.
higher up people in the room. There's still
Yeah,
people.
hire people,
Yeah,
unfamiliar people in the room.
unfamiliar
I've done
people.
presentations where I didn't know anybody in the room, and yeah,
Yeah,
that's a bit overwhelming at first. But I'm like, I've done this before.
yeah,
Let me just try, my brain. Let me just put like friends in the audience there in my imagination and keep going. But that's the important thing. Like, and if you're giving that presentation, understand people there to hear you.
hmm,
They may not know you. They may be higher ups, but they're there to listen to you. So you have the knowledge.
yeah,
Go ahead and do that. And it may not be as life threatening as again running into a fire, but it's the same principle. It's like that
exactly.
firefighter running into that fire, that military, soldier jumping on the battlefield, to
Hmm.
save the nation, or save the territory. Again, it's scary, it's uncertain, but we do it. And,
Yeah,
and at the end of the day, it's going to make us stronger. It's the only way we're going to change. And so it's like we have to, if we want our lives to change or we want to change, we have to go first. We have to be the one to initiate that change.
yeah,
Because a lot of people I mean, everyone wants their life to change, and then you talk about this manifestation and changing and all that. But until you take any action, and that goes back to another thing now, about, I'd say, almost 20 years ago, there was a big movement in America when the Secret came out, the law of attraction, and
mm,
manifestation was talked. And I do believe that has its place and it's important. But the one thing that I felt was missing, the missing step was action. It's,
mm,
I want to manifest great luck, but what am I going to do to get that luck? What
mm,
am I going to do to get that promotion or that win? There's action I have to take. And yes, having the mindset aligned with that is vital and crucial. But if I just sit there and say I want $1 million and I don't do anything to, I'll, set that effort in motion, it's not going to happen. And
mm.
so that's where I kind of like, okay, the energy and manifestation is great, but it's missing the other important piece, and that's the action steps, the
Yeah,
plan.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I believe yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. And I think a lot of people just say, "Hey, I'm gonna send it out in the universe and it'll come back to me," without thinking about the action. What it does, what it's supposed to do, is now it attracts those things to you, right? So it's not necessarily just attracting to you because all this stuff is always around us. It's just a matter of what we're focused in, what we're tuned into. That's the difference. And so if you in a sense throw it out in the universe, now your responsibility is to see. Just like you
Hmm.
go out and say, "Hey, let's count all the red Volkswagens that we see." Right? You don't see those red Volkswagens if you're not paying attention to them, right?
Hmm.
You see cars, you see trucks, you see but if you specify this is the thing that I'm throwing out in the universe, I want to focus in on red Volkswagens, you're going to start seeing them because now you're
Yeah.
fixated and you're focused. Now the
And,
next step is go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, when you don't notice things, it's like they were there all along.
Yeah.
And like we, several years ago, one of the cats we bought, adopted was a all white cat, and I remember thinking that was so rare. But now I was looking back at like pictures I had, saw on social media, and there's like, so many white cats. I'm like, well, I never noticed it before,
Yeah.
and and that's the whole thing too. That's part of it too. That's why sometimes that when we try hard to find a solution, sometimes the answer is right there in front of us,
Mm,
and we're just not seeing it.
yeah. Yeah. So that's definitely a great motion. Now, you work with hypnosis and what's NLP stand for? I cannot remember.
It's neuro-linguistic program, and
Neuro-linguistic programming.
and a
What
lot of it is like mind shifts, like and it's all about like like using your mind. The metaphor of the mind is a computer,
yeah.
and using language and using different processes. And we are just kind of really talking about NLP all along, which is like again using your imagery, using past experiences, using your imagination to kind of change your neurology. Because the one thing that we've learned in the past, I'd say 30 to 40 years, is an idea of neuroplasticity, which is the fact that the brain can rewire itself,
It's
and our
multiple. Yeah.
and our genetics can rewire themselves based on our thoughts and perspectives. So that's where like the neural comes in because we can through language and through different programming that we put into our, different by the action we take, we can reprogram our neurology, and we can reprogram and reset ourselves and kind of restart.
Hmm. So, what's one misunderstood idea about hypnosis or NLP that you wish more people knew about?
That it's not nefarious, that it's not about mind control, that it's not about evil.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, they see, again, movies, TV shows,
Hmm.
um, they do sensationalize it. You'll see, like, if you go to a comedy show, you'll see some people like a hypnotist on stage, and next thing you know, you see people, barking like dogs, clucking like chickens,
Yeah.
and people are like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, well, then don't. So the biggest misconception that, because I've studied for so long, is that it's you are in 100% control
Hmm.
over your brain, over your physiology, and no matter what, it's just hypnosis is really just an altered state of flow, of being in flow and being in a being in a high state of concentration. And yes, it's gonna look. You're gonna see people with their eyes closed. You're gonna see people looking very relaxed, and it's just they're in high concentration.
Hmm.
And also, we're hypnotized on a daily basis. The news, with politics, with the with advertisers, constantly bombarding us with messages
Hmm.
and propaganda, and that's hypnosis, really.
Wow. Got you.
So we've been hypnotized, hundreds of times. We just may not have been aware that that's what's happening. And again, it's a natural process. It's a and there's a lot of force for good with that. So that would be the biggest misconception. So a lot of people think it's like this woo woo, this external thing that happens to us, but it's no, we're an active process in it.
Yeah. It's funny when you talked about the mass marketing and things like that. First thing came, I love sci-fi movies, so it reminded me of a movie back in the '80s, I believe, called They Live, with Roddy Piper in it, and it just shows like this guy. He puts on some glasses and he can see all of the messaging, that marketers are putting out to us. But there were also aliens that were putting out messages of
Yeah.
being submissive and things like that, right? So interesting.
And yeah, and what I say, it's really about um, being suggestible. And if you weren't suggestible, you couldn't learn. So that's what
Yep,
I will often say, is that it's just
being
about
suggestible.
how open you are to learning and how open you are to new ideas. And
Yeah,
everyone's like, well, I'm definitely open-minded. Well, then you're open to being hypnotized, in a sense. So,
yeah.
and everybody is. Now, the another thing that I would like to say with that is,
Hmm.
you can't hypnotize anybody against their will, their free will. We can't influence free will. So you're not going to do anything morally opposed to doing when you're in hypnosis.
Got you. Got you. All right. If the listeners out there, the watchers out there, could do only one exercise on eradicating self doubt or sabotage this week, what should it be, and how exactly do they do it?
Well, the one thing I would say this week, again, taking action. Just taking action, even 3 things each day that can propel you forward to your goal. Do it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Don't think about it, just do it. And sometimes it can take 30 seconds to a minute to enact, but just do some things that are different, and do something to move the goal. If you want to write that book, write the first chapter.
Mm,
If you want to, start this job, start the, doing whatever, start the business. What's the first couple of steps? Start doing those,
mhm. I
taking
like
action.
that. Taking action. All right. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you'd like to talk about? The floor is
I,
yours.
yeah, well, I would just really say that we have everything we need. We have
Okay.
all the answers to our problems. Sometimes it's just being open to that feedback and open to that intuition and not listening to the noise,
Mm,
and pay attention, and disregarding the noise that sometimes comes up. We have
yeah.
all the answers within us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. That is truly interesting, and to go a little bit on that, I know we complicate things. Our mind can try and complicate things, and it's not doing it to, like you said, it's not you consciously trying to sabotage yourself. It's really just trying to save you, right? And a lot of times, I believe we complicate very simple things,
Hmm.
right?
Oh yeah, and we're great at that. We are
Yeah,
wonderful, gifted at that, making things complicated that really shouldn't be.
yeah, yeah. All right. And I won't give any of my life examples, but we just know that's a thing. But doctor, where can the listeners connect with you, access your resources, or learn more about your work? And tell us about some of the work that you've done, some of the
Sure.
products you
Well,
got out
I
there.
would definitely encourage you to check out my book, Rise Above the Script: Confronting Self-Doubt and Mastering Self-Sabotage for Performing Artists. And really just, I mean, even though it's geared towards actors, it's a book that anybody can really benefit from. And that's
Hmm.
on Amazon as well as audiobook. So check that out. You can connect with me on my website, albertbramante.com, as well as LinkedIn and Instagram. So feel free to reach out. I'd love to have a conversation with you.
I like it. Hey, Dr. Albert Bramante. Where is Bramante? What is that? What does that name come from?
Well, we're from, our heritage is Italian, and so from
Italian.
Italy. Yeah,
That is a dope name. I don't know
thank you.
why. I was just saying Bramante. I like it. Anyway, thank you for the clear
Thank you.
tools. Thanks for the clear tools and the real talk today. Getting past that self doubt, trying to reprogram. Now we know that it's not fixed, right? We can go in and through our thoughts and through our, purposeful thoughts, we can rechange or we can change how we perceive new things, things that we haven't seen before, challenges that we don't know the outcome, right? And we can be more inclined to action, go to action instead of thinking about it all day and deciding I'm just going to sit here and watch TV. So
Exactly. Yes.
yes, thank you for all of that insight. And if this did help you rewrite your inner script, then please subscribe to Hindsight the Podcast on YouTube and your favorite audio platform. Leave a review and share this episode with someone stepping into a bigger stage. And until next time, keep learning from your past, act with purpose today, and just be more. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
That's hindsight.